Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Spin It Social Hour. My name is Stefan Kaplan, and it is an absolute pleasure to be here this evening. Thursday evenings, well, every other Thursday at 9 o'clock, we're bringing you some of the best photographers from around the world to be here and share their work and their journeys. I am a social media and visual consultant. I've worked with the likes of the Pulitzer Prizes, AARP, and the Jackson Charitable Foundation, and many, many others. I work with Sri Srinivasan and the DigiMentors Group as a consultant, and I'm a teacher at FIT, an adjunct professor at FIT. I am also a former photo editor at the New York Times wire service for over 15 years. So it is an absolute pleasure to be here. We started the Spin It Social Hour when the pandemic hit to help photographers and make sure that they can get their work out there and tell you all about their journeys and everything that they've done in their lives. So it is just been a phenomenal, I think, 44 shows now. And tonight, it's an absolute pleasure to bring somebody on from one of my favorite cities in the world, San Francisco. Been there many times. I have actually worked with the Aquarium of the Bay on near Pier 39 there. So San Francisco, my heart is always there. So we are going to give Roxanne the build-up that she deserves with a show of her work that every week, as you know, I curate a selection of the photographer's work, and we show you the best of the best. So here we go. Enjoy it. My camera became a bridge to diverse cultures and environments, an entry into intimate relationships between me, other people, and other lands. Taking photographs expanded my world and vision until I found I was no longer an observer. I became an equal participant in the experience, explains Roxanne Bouché Overton. Roxanne has been an artist all her life, pursuing her creative interests, but her interest in photography began when she was a child and played with the family Rolleiflex. When she got older, she graduated to an SLR and quickly learned the basics of photography. She moved on to the first Nikon digital camera and has since upgraded with each advance in technology. I finally had total control over everything from start to finish. Roxanne now works in most genres of photography, although she favors images of things that ordinarily go unnoticed. Reflections in found art, imaginary landscapes, and intentional camera movement have become mainstays of her portfolio. Photographers look with their eyes, but see with their hearts. We capture moments others would miss. We have cameras that document or can be used as paintbrushes on canvas. When we share these moments, we allow others to experience the vision and insight that is uniquely ours. Folks, it gives me absolute pleasure to bring on Roxanne Bouché Overton from San Francisco. Roxanne, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing just fine today. It has been a busy week, but I am always thrilled to be here doing this and bringing on photographers to, get your work out there and tell your stories. And it is an absolute pleasure to see you because I learned about you and I became instantly captivated by your work.
Oh my. Thank you, Stefan.
No, I have to tell you, it captured a part of me that just really took over my spirit this week. And I was telling my students at FIT today that, when you find something, an artist's work or something in life that just makes you want to go out and start shooting in different ways, well, your work is going to have me trying some of this technique that you use.
Good. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And I see we've had a lot of greetings from people. I know Bob Veritoni was here. Pradney Ahaldipur is here from Maryland. Bob is from New Jersey, and many others that were saying hello. Thank you for being here, everyone. Roxanne, so tell me, how did it start? How did this journey begin for you?
Well, really, it did begin with a camera that my dad actually was a house painter, and he traded some work for a Rolleiflex. And, it's the kind that you look down into. Mm-hmm. And I was so enamored of it. We were really poor, couldn't afford film. So I spent my childhood taking pretend pictures and, just dreaming of the day that I'd be able to afford film and finally be able to hold what I was capturing in my hands. And it kind of grew from there. I got a wonderful birthday gift in the way of my first Canon SLR, And first thing I did was looked in the owner's manual and wanted to find out how I could take a double exposure of my kids. So I don't think my intent was ever to be terribly literal, although I do believe that in order to do any of the specialty photography, as I call it, that you, I'm sorry, I just saw a friend say hello. And
please. I know, it happens.
Anyway, I do think that the basics, being a really good photographer, understanding all of the rules of traditional photography are imperative before you branch out into things like, motion or abstract. You just have to understand how the camera works, and you have to understand what makes a good photograph.
That's right. Well, I have to tell you, I have a Hasselblad. I have a Rolleiflex downstairs. And I'm embarrassed to say that I barely have time to use it. I really need to start using it and getting into, some other stuff these days. But I'm so inundated with social media and doing things so quickly these days that I haven't found the time. But it is wonderful, and you're absolutely right. It always starts with the basics.
Yeah, it does. And now that you've told me you have that, you're going to have to let me go take some pretend pictures with it.
Well, it's a prized possession. I have to get it going. So, but one of the things I wanted to ask you was, as I said in the bio that we narrated the opening slideshow with, is that you did a lot of things in the arts. What is it about photography that captured your heart more than anything else?
I'm incredibly visual by nature, and I'm also dyslexic. Not dyslexic so much in reading as in directional.
Okay.
And I often find that photographs I take end up being flipped horizontally because that was how I really kind of envisioned them. And I've just always been fascinated with lines and shapes and shadows, and especially color. It just kind of speaks to me in a way that nothing else quite did. Probably my second love would be pottery, because the hands are in the earth and forming and shaping and molding. But photography just kept winning out, and I finally decided to forego a lot of the other pursuits I'd done over the years and really put my emphasis on photography and see exactly where my visions would take me. And I've got to say, I've surprised myself.
Well, you've written books. We're going to talk about that, of course. We're going to show your information all over on the bottom of the ticker there so people can find you and make sure they check out all of your work, because you have so much work. I took all week and I still couldn't get through all of it.
It's almost obscene, isn't it? I'm really addicted.
No, the one thing that I realized, having gone from your website to your Facebook page to your Instagram account, and I was like, wait a minute, there's more and more and more. And I was like, wow, she is a workhorse.
I don't think it's so much that I'm a workhorse as when I get behind a viewfinder, I'm in a world of zen. Yeah, it's just, I just have to create. I have to go out and see what I can see and how I can see it. And I had some friends introduce me to a new venue in San Francisco on Sunday that I'd never seen before. And I was just a kid in a candy store. It's like, oh my gosh, look at this. I wonder what I can do.
That's so funny. That's so funny, Roxanne, because every time I find a new environment, I always say I'm like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah, it is. It's that way.
I think that's a photographer thing. We all feel like kids in candy stores every time we find something new that jazzes us up and gets our creative juices flowing,
Exactly.
But, so have you been out in San Francisco your whole life? I mean, tell us a little about that.
No, I grew up with somebody that was in construction and a contracting family, and we moved a lot, mainly all over the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
And I've also been fortunate enough to do a lot of international travel. I was an underwater photographer. You haven't seen that group of pictures yet, Steph.
Whoa, wait a minute. You hold back on me on that one now.
Anyway, and of course, the diving and underwater photography took me to wonderful locations all over the world, and a lot of places that people don't normally go because that's where the good underwater work is. So,
Yeah.
The far reaches of Borneo and Thailand and little islands in Indonesia, and then the more traditional travel as well.
Now wait a minute. I know why you held out on me, because you want to come back for a second show.
And I'll have to scan slides. I don't think so.
I'll get somebody to scan them for you, because I want to see those. So
okay.
I know, right? We used to shoot a lot of chromes back in the days, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I loved chromes. How did you feel about chromes?
Yeah, me too. I mean, it was, again, a different kind of Candyland, and it just added an essence to being in that weightless, three-dimensional world that just was magical. And I absolutely loved it, and I feel like I was extremely fortunate to get to experience as many of the places that I did. It was wonderful.
Well, let's roll through some of those experiences and photos in terms of all your other work here. Tell us about a few of these, little about each one as we go through them. So, for instance, tell us about this photo right here.
I love this photo. I'm so glad you chose it. This is my very favorite picture of the Taj Mahal. It's the east balcony.
Okay.
And these gentlemen had come in on a bus, obviously native in India. And with the exception of the green jacket, nobody else in the picture is wearing anything that has any kind of zipper or button. It's just all folded and tied, as the country people do. Mm-hmm. And they were just in awe. I mean, I think this was the trip of a lifetime for them. And the sun was just coming up and hitting them from the side. And it was just a phenomenal sight to see them standing there and see the textures of the clothing and, just the wonderful lines and the grouping of them. And when I got home, I took, of course, all the traditional shots of the Taj Mahal, but everybody else takes those too. And this one I felt was just kind of the catch of a lifetime. I loved it, and it was an essence of what it felt like to be there.
Right. Now, what I am curious to ask you about that is, I agree with you 100%. I always look for the photos, too, that are out of the ordinary and not your typical tourist shots and everything. So this is a beautiful and a real winner. But had you back then started getting into ICM, intentional camera movement? Because I would love to have seen one of the Taj Mahal the way you do the intentional camera movement.
I didn't do the Taj. In fact, India was kind of the birth of it, because I was in these dark alcoves in these different temples and buildings that they had. Mm-hmm. And I had to shoot on slow shutter speed. And what I was getting was the flow of clothing and motion when I was indoors. Okay. And I thought, oh my goodness, I wonder if I can do that outdoors by moving the camera instead of them moving. Right. And that was really sort of the birth for me of finding out that I could untether and dance with my camera and come up with some really unique things. So I don't know. I guess I'll have to go back and try the Taj with ICM. Not a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, I had to ask, but I think that's just great, and I love that. I want you to talk about that as we move on, but. You've had a love affair, as many photographers do, but I've seen the way you use light. You have definitely had a love affair with light. Yes.
Well, light is what I follow, and it's what I look for. And, it's followed then by lines and shapes and patterns. Right. And the fifth element that I like in my photographs is a feel of motion, whether I've put things in motion or whether this static train just looks like it's moving because it's built for speed. Right. And it's those are really my pillars, and if I get 3 of them, I've got a good photograph. If I get 4, it's going to be a really good photograph, and when I nail all 5 of them, then I'm hitting the excellent category in my mind, and that's kind of how I measure it.
Then you're, what I say all the time is, we're giddy, right?
Yeah, giddy.
Exactly. Well, Edward's here. Oh, Edward, one of our biggest supporters and biggest fans, and a former guest. Great photographer. Yeah, avid Leica user. Edward says, what amazes me is not only the composition, but the tone and color, like a gorgeous photo, realistic painting out of egg tempera. Amazing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's lovely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then, so now I know you have a great story about this portrait, because I know you've done a bunch of portraits, but you know, I'm glad you sent me this one, and I'm glad we put this one in the inside slideshow here. Tell us the story, and I'm just going to let you go about it because it's such a great story.
Well, same trip to India, and I saw we were in a very, very rural village, totally unsophisticated, actually kind of off the beaten tourist path. So the story ends up surprising me in a way. I saw her coming from quite a ways away. She had just amazing charisma, all the color, the beads. She was fabulous. And she was laughing and smiling with children. And so I kind of put myself in her path, and I went into my sign language of, you know, can I take a picture? And she surprised me right off, because usually the older people don't want their photos taken. Right. And she nodded and said yes, and she just gave me this great big smile. So I snapped a couple of pictures of her, and I thought I'd take a few here and make sure I get a good one. And I thanked her and started to move out of her way, and she stopped me, and it was like, no. She wanted to see the back of my camera, and being able to see photos in the back of the camera was fairly new. This was back in 2010.
Right.
And so I was quite surprised. And so, of course, I showed them to her, and she looked at them, and she wanted to see them all, and I showed them to her. And she showed me the little trash can, and in sign language made it very clear that I was to delete them. And I was just heartbroken. So I went ahead and I deleted them all, and I thanked her and started to walk away. And she reached out and grabbed me and turned me around and said, you know, you. And then she stood there and she gave me this look. And so I put the camera up, and I thought, well, she'll smile when I get the camera ready to shoot. But she didn't. She just kept this look. So I thought, well, okay. And so I took a few pictures of her. And then she wanted to see the back of the camera again. And I thought, well, here comes the trash can. And she just loved them. She loved all of them. And I was kind of surprised. And I said, thank you. And we kind of said our goodbyes. And I walked away, and she was all grinning and happy again. And as she was grinning at me as I was getting ready to walk away, it occurred to me that she didn't want the smiling pictures because she had no teeth.
There we go.
That's
right.
That was all I could figure. And so she thought that this made her look much more attractive, because obviously in her mind, the fact that she didn't have teeth was something she was sensitive to.
I can't blame her.
Yeah. And so I've got this treasure and she looked so mean and so stern.
Right.
And she was just so absolutely adorable and sweet.
Right.
And it was one of the nicest cultural exchanges I've ever had, and I've had a lot, but she's just precious to me.
Yes, I mean it's an incredible serious look on her face, and you know the stories are written all over her face. You know, I mean I always say that, you know, if only I could hear half of the stories written on people's faces. You know. So, but no, beautiful portrait, and quite the story. But, you know, you got her into so much so early on, doing so many different things, from architectural photography. I love the way you look at the world and the way you look at buildings and everything. And, you know, and then there's sometimes moments that you just come across where you're walking down a street or you're inside of a store. And I mean, tell us about this one, because to me, this is one of my favorites because it just has that feel of an oil painting. Yeah,
this is just a straight little shot. I was on the street. It was real bright sunlight, and I was walking by a bank, and they have those little glass sheets with water running down them in their windows as kind of an obscurity screen. And so I walked into the bank and I said, "You care if I shoot a few pictures through your water wall?" And they said, "No, go ahead." So I did, and this is it. Nothing of great talent or skill, but it was a matter of vision.
But it's always the right moment, being in the right place at the right time, you know. And the number of people in the frame, their positioning in the photo, all made for that perfect, like, composition and symmetry in the photo. You know, just beautiful, just beautiful. And then, of course, I know that this is in LA because I've been to the museum, and it's absolutely just so beautiful to photograph day or night, you know?
It is, and this museum is a joy to photograph inside as well as outside. You just, every time you look at it, and it's just a big white box that sits on a corner with this interesting facade. And the first time I saw it, I thought, well, what in the world are you going to do with that? And I've shot it twice. The first time with a good friend of mine, Sweo, who's the Hasselblad master, and she did her Hasselblad book based on the Broad Museum. And we spent 3.5 days shooting it, and we still didn't get it all shot. And so it's really a phenomenal place to go and shoot. Then we go inside, and oh my goodness, I think you've got one of the inside shots too that I used some ICM on.
Okay. No, I remember seeing it at night. I was out there working on something in LA, and I was there for a conference. Actually, I was working with Encore.org. And anyway, I'm standing there at night, and I was like, wow, this is probably as magnificent to photograph at night as it is during the day, you know?
Yeah, we were there from sunup till late at night.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely magnificent. I'm glad you mentioned the name because I totally said museum and I didn't mention the name, so thank you.
Sure.
But anyway, going into nature, I mean, you know, just another beautiful way of using ICM, but I know you've also done a lot of multiple exposures and everything. What is you know, do you combine any of the ICM with double exposures, and do you have a passion for one over the other?
Actually, no.
Okay.
It depends on the subject. It really depends on the subject. This is straight ICM. It's not multiple exposure. It was taken in the Smoky Mountains back in Tennessee, and in a nice fall picture. And it's just taking a camera and just at about 1/13 of a second.
Right.
And you follow the lines of what you want to shoot and hold that camera steady so it doesn't squiggle.
Right.
And you kind of can paint with the camera. I mean, it just literally takes the colors, and the more time I give it, the more color seems to gather on the sensor. It always really surprises me. Right. But yeah, and it was inspiring to be there. It's a gorgeous park, and yeah.
Yeah, no, I've heard a lot about them and everything, but you know, the whole thing with multiple exposures is, you know, it is always an element of surprise, of course. But I love the fact that you even do some portraits of people with them. I love this, you know? Yeah.
Well, this is the old 16th Street train station in Oakland, and you know, you can shoot straight graffiti there. There's a lot that you can do, but somebody had this person there as a model, so I stepped in and took advantage of it.
Sure.
And this is definitely multiple exposure. And I think what multiple exposure and ICM are to me more than anything is capturing time and not capturing that 125th of a second, but capturing time. And you can do it in multiples. And my camera happens to compress multiples together in the camera. Or you can shoot a series of pictures and you can composite in Photoshop. Right. But you're capturing more time, and light shifts minutely. Things happen, and you get such interesting stories out of it that just a single frame instantly shot, which is not how we see at all. I mean, that isn't our vision. Our vision moves. And so I think that's what I try to mimic with photography like this.
Absolutely. No, you know, shooting in tunnels and old train stations and all that type of stuff is always such a joy, because you get just those really, you know, beautiful, deep, you know, color and you know, there's nothing like shooting in those classic places, you know?
Yeah.
So I love that. Absolutely beautiful. Now, you've done a certain amount of black and white photography. And what was really must have been thrilling for you was that you had this body of work in black and white. We showed a lot of them in the opening slideshow. And tell us, I mean, it must have been a real thrill to be published in Lens magazine.
Yeah, I was delighted. I got an inquiry if I'd like to do a submission, and I had just finished shooting at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, and I had some very striking images that I thought, and it was for their black and white issue, and I thought I can do some black and white with some of the things that I've shot there that'll be really striking.
Right.
And so I sat down at the computer and opened up Photoshop and worked on a few things. And I thought, I've got some stuff here that I think is good enough to submit. So I did. And I was really thrilled that they accepted it.
No, they gave you a beautiful spread. I mean, look at the spread. I mean, just gorgeous. And, it's always a thrill to see anything published, especially given the nature of everything being online. So congratulations. That must have been great.
Yeah,
so, but I want to have you talk a little more about ICM and the whole intentional camera movement thing, because a lot of the work that we're going to show is a combination of that and multiple exposures as well that I have lined up. But talk to us about it and tell us how even people out there can begin to experiment a little with their cameras this way.
Well, when I started doing ICM, I stayed probably a 15th to a 10th of a second.
Okay.
And photography to me, and it's why I don't have a genre, isn't about what the subject is. It's about what the lines and the shapes and, of course, what the light is doing. But it's really those 5 elements that I look for. And it can be in nature, it can be inside of a building, or, it can be on a city street. They're all interrelated by having those elements.
Right.
And with ICM, my idea was to capture time. This was in Amsterdam. It's old. This structure the tunnel has been there forever. And I didn't want to just do straight shots of it. I wanted to capture the element that it's been there, and these people are passing through a couple of eras of time. They're passing through time that this structure has created, but they're also moving forward with their own lifetime. And that's 2 words, not a lifetime, but, we walk through our lifetime. And so that's part of what ICM means to me. It's those elongated moments, and more recently, my shutter speeds have been going as long as 3 seconds, which gives a completely different look. But this is just a straight, and I move very fast. I mean, It's like whomp.
Right.
It's that quick.
Right.
But it's rock steady, and it's following the lines of those pillars. And if I'm doing landscapes, then it's across. If I'm someplace with a diagonal, I'm going down. So it's picking up that main movement line that is taking place in the subject that I'm shooting.
Right.
And elongating that and letting everything else kind of blend the way that it will. And I think the element of surprise of what am I going to get is also a real attraction, because it's not predictable.
Right.
I can take my tripod and go out and shoot a sunrise at the ocean, and I know what I'm going to come home with. When I go out and set this camera loose and me loose with it, I never know what I'm going to come home with. And that's part of the beauty of it.
No, absolutely. So we're getting a bunch of comments here from people. Edward said, Ruth says here, it looks very ethereal, and love the colors and lighting and the whole blurred concept. Absolutely. Edward had another comment too. He said, gorgeous, almost like a colored pinhole image with motion. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I agree with that one 100%. Both of them. Great comments, and thank you. Tim Sohn is here. Thank you, Tim, for being here. Tim's a big nature lover, so I know he loved that earlier photo from the Smoky Mountains. One of the things that I noticed when you're doing a lot of the ICM photography is you do a certain amount with buildings and architecture and everything, but you really have a real passion for shooting people in them.
Well, I think the person gives perspective, and the person, the human element, also really tells a story.
Right.
And it's more of an in-depth story because you get the pleasure of the surroundings and whatever happens with the surroundings. But then you have that person there, and as humans, we're always interested in what other humans are doing. Mm-hmm. And so it's an element, I think, that helps draw the viewer in, and it helps them create the story that they want to tell with the image that I've presented.
No, I have to tell you, I think one of the other things that's great is that you've also put out a lot of books on this, and you've also been an instructor, you've done workshops. So tell us a little about that, because I'm sure a lot of our viewers would love to know more about how they can learn about this. And also from your work, we're going to show where they can find your books. Tell us a little about that, please.
Sure. And it's real simple. I started out with a book to help myself, because I'm a firm believer that when you're writing a book, you have to really know your stuff. So it really makes me dig deep before I go on to explain it to another person. And I started out with a book called Think Before You Shoot. It was originally developed to help people take vacation photographs if they went on a trip somewhere, that their neighbors wouldn't cringe when they said they wanted to show them their pictures. And it ended up evolving into more of a book about the real basics of photography and what to think about when you're shooting and what to consider putting in your images. And after that, the way I actually learned how to perfect my photography was through self-critique and also listening to people critique other people's work. And so I wrote a book on the art of critique and how it helps you make exceptional photographs. And so that was the second in the series. And then the third is catching my peripheral vision, which of course is the motion. Because if you stop and think about it, most of what you and I see at any given moment is blurred. We're only lasering in on sharp focus on the most minute little thing that we see. Everything else that is surrounding us is in blur. And for most of us that are taking photographs, what catches our eye is usually blurred. I mean, we don't land on something in perfect focus and go, oh, I want to take a picture of that. Something causes us to look at that, and it's something that has caught our eye in that world of blur. And what I found is that I often liked what I saw in the world of blur better than I did when I focused in on it. And that really is kind of the peripheral vision. So that book really goes into the basics of how you start taking ICM. And if anybody wants to take ICM photography, I highly recommend that they read it. It's an easy read, it's very instructional, and I really do try to do my best to explain exactly how to do it and tell you exactly what my camera settings were and what I did when I took the picture and why the picture looks the way that it does. And then the last one sort of ties them all together. It's mindful photography, and it really gets into a little bit more detail about how we knit all of our knowledge together and come out with the kind of photography that we really want to take.
Yeah, so let's show everybody, some of these books here. So why don't you tell everybody here what we have?
Well, those are the 4 books that we were talking about, and they're all available. If you just search my name on Amazon, what I have will come up, and Amazon has some really nice previews so that you can actually read several pages in each one and see if it looks like something you're interested in. And you can get them either in ebook form, or you can get them in a nice heavy paperback book form. Real paper pages.
Yeah, no, I love the selection of books here. The Art of Mindful Photography, Catching My Peripheral Vision, Finding Clarity in Blur is a great one. I'm definitely going to get that one. And then Critique, A Path to Creating Exceptional Photography. And I love the title of the next one, Think Before You Shoot. Oh, but you've also been to Havana. You've done a book on Havana.
I do. My youngest son suggested that we go to Havana together. shocked me. We spent about 10 days down there together and just had an absolutely wonderful time, and I put the book together for him. And then this 100 Words is a collaboration with a friend of mine in Tennessee, and we became friends over this book. He had seen some of my work on Facebook and sent me an email and said, "Do you want to write a book?"
Mm-hmm.
And so we did. We collaborated, and my trip to the Smoky Mountains was actually to meet him a couple of years after this book came out. So kind of a fun story.
Wow. No, I love the selection of books. I am personally going to dive into the rest of your work and also your blog and other things because, like I said, you've ignited something in me. I can't wait.
That's a lovely compliment.
I can't wait to start going around and trying some of this more intentional camera movement and reading some of your instructional insight on photography because, like I said, you know, we always have to find new ways of creating things. One of my favorite things to do in life is always create stuff. Oh, our good friend Ty is here. Let's see what Ty has to say. And let's actually bring up the other slides. We read Ty's comment because I'm sure it's going to be a great one. So let's see. Ty says, I had the good fortune of going on a photo walk with Roxanne in New York City a few years back, covered on my own. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I remember when we had
Ty. It was such a pleasure to meet him.
Yeah. Oh, and we have Edward. Edward writes the encyclopedia of comments. I love Edward, but I need a half hour to read his comments. There's something in photography we call the zone. The moment when you, Roxanne, are doing what you, Roxanne, are doing is showing us a world that exists in a world and time you have unlocked for us to see. As great as some of the great artists, musicians, film directors, poets, seeing things we normally walk by, and now we all observe in awe and wonder in a completely new way. How inspiring for us all. Edward?
Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much, Edward. That's just a lovely, lovely compliment.
Carla says, hi from San Francisco. Terrific discussion with smart tips. Thank you, Carla. Thank you very much. Rose Horowitz is here. Find Rose and follow her Women to Follow hashtag on Twitter. Hi, Stefan. Great to see Roxanne Bouché Overton's work. Thank you, Rose, for being here. Thank you very much. Roxanne, the Golden Gate Bridge. What an exciting thing it must be to use a certain technique like you have in ICM on something like the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, and this is a hand-blended multiple exposure. I mean, it's such a glorious bridge that in my mind, it just deserved to be repeated and repeated and repeated again. Right. And again, it's one of those iconic structures that so many photographers from all over the world and really fantastic photographers have taken amazing photographs of it. I wanted to try something different. I wanted to tell its story from different perspectives. And so this is what I chose to do with it for this image.
I meant a multiple exposure. Sorry about that. I'm so caught up in your ICM photography that I just threw ICM out there. Obviously, it's a gorgeous multiple exposure. I'm sure Peter De Silva and other friends of ours who have been on the show from San Francisco would just love to see these, and I'm sure they will if they're not here right now. By the way, happy birthday, Peter De Silva, former guest and great friend. Jude Foster is here from New Zealand. Hello, Jude. Wonderful to have you here from beautiful New Zealand. We hope everything's well there, and that, you know, wow, just, it's so beautiful to see such an international crowd all the time.
Yeah.
So then we get to some of my beautiful New York stuff here. And let me tell you, I knew this was New York the minute I looked at it. And to me, it looks like it's right probably near Madison Avenue, near the Empire State Building, probably.
Yeah, and I don't know. I can't read a map.
No, I'm a New Yorker, born and bred. It's Madison Avenue, Park Avenue, probably Madison, right, or Lex, right near, probably towards the Empire State Building. I would say Madison is my guess.
Okay.
So, but
Well,
it
it was
gorgeous.
a beautiful spot wherever it was. It was
Oh
absolutely
man,
fantastic.
beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful.
And again, this is just nice following the lines of the buildings down. Just
Right.
really.
Then we get back to your beautiful area of San Francisco, and having been there many times, walking down some of the streets in Chinatown that have
Uh-huh.
all the lanterns and everything, I knew exactly where you must have taken this, but I've never seen anything as beautiful as this from that
Okay.
area.
Yeah, this is a multiple exposure,
Yeah.
and with lots of emphasis on making sure. I was very careful how I lined up the people so that they didn't disappear, because the light, when you're doing an in-camera multiple exposure like that, the light can sort of disappear people if you're not careful. So they're a little bit warped, which I think adds to their charm, and then we've got all that gorgeous color.
Absolutely. Edward says that the steel from the bridge, from all the steel from that bridge came from the, oh, listen to this, Roxanne. That's right. So Edward documented the steel factory in the Bethlehem Steel Factory. And all the steel from that bridge, for the Golden Gate Bridge, came from the Bethlehem Steel Company. That image makes the bridge come alive as the people that built it, sorry, I don't know why I'm stumbling so much here tonight, as if the people that built it can be seen in the metal.
That's a fabulous, fabulous description of the picture. And I think that's how I feel about it, because it's about time. It's about, the bridge was finished, I think, in 1937.
Mm-hmm.
And it just captures that. Think of how many people have crossed that bridge, and think of all the reasons why. And there are just so many stories to tell with it. And it's just, and I think that kind of photography can really personify that there's just a million stories there. Trips across.
That is the thing always about architecture, of course, and these unbelievable buildings that we pass by, and these beautiful bridges that we drive across, or that we, see from a distance and visit, is that the stories, the history that went into building these incredible, incredible, structures. And for you to capture it in such a different way is absolutely an honor, I feel, to the people who built it, and to also the structures themselves.
That's a lovely thing to say. And I do hope I honor them, because I am indebted to them for the beauty and the wondrous sights they've given us to enjoy.
No, absolutely. I'm going to take a 1-second pause here, because one of the things I always love to do, and I have to make sure that I do, because it's great that the platform that we stream this on, to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and have so many great viewers from around the world, is StreamYard. It changed my life as a social media and visual strategist and consultant, and I just wanted to give them their just due, because they sponsor the show. And we have another sponsor, which we'll show very quickly in the end. And I have to tell you, I want to get right back into your work here, because I also love that you walk around and the things that you see and blend together are just magnificent. Tell me about this one. I found this in your collection, and it just caught my eye right away.
Yeah, you actually picked out two. I don't know if the other one's in here, that were taken at the same, within probably 10 minutes of each other, and I was doing multiple exposures. And what drew me to
Okay, I think we may have frozen here for a second.
the site was with the
Okay, hold on 1 second.
circle on the screen. Are you, or is that just here? We're back.
I think it may be on your end.
Okay.
So if you have any problems, we'll bear with them. Don't worry about it.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Anyway, it was just a great setting, and I was doing multiple exposures there and waiting for people to come through. And this was pre-pandemic, so in San Francisco, you never have to wait too long for somebody to walk through.
Right.
And it's just a matter of putting them my camera overlays what I can see, and so I can put them where I want them in the picture and make my arrangements the way I want them to be.
Well, you have a wonderful eye for doing this, and you really bring them together and make them sing, as I would say. And but then you could be walking down the street and there's a lot of athletes all the time, and there's other people doing things. I love the perfect moment here of a jogger, a runner, and the beautiful streets of San Francisco.
Yeah, this is over by the Transit Center, and again, it was the angles. I have an implied triangle there. I love what happens to crosswalks when the camera moves, because it makes the crosswalk more distinct in a blurry kind of way. And the light was just stunning. And so I just stood there for a few minutes and played with it. And this was the one I just liked the way that light got picked up and kind of smeared around. And I love the little red lights on the right-hand side. Yeah. As kind of an accent, and the little spot of yellow. And I really like color. So, and again, geometry, which the shapes and the line.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing with you is your use of geometrical shapes and everything. Your use of geometry is just phenomenal, and your knowledge, of course, but also, like you said, a lot of it has to do with the way you look at things. And it's always interesting, Roxanne, because sometimes the certain things in life that could prove very difficult to many people. Such as earlier you mentioned that you were dyslexic in terms of the way, the way your vision catches certain things. Well, you've turned that though into such a positive for everything you do.
Well, it's how I see.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Right. But it's so beautiful the way you see and the way you capture it, that in many ways it's a gift in other words.
It actually, I do think of it as a gift.
Yes.
I do, because I do see things differently. I know I do. And I love that I can.
And it is an absolute gift, and we're thankful for it in many ways. Now, I did not realize this earlier when we were talking, but here we are in New York, and wow, Times Square, right?
Right. Yeah, I loved how many people there were, and I loved the shapes of them. And I took a few different swipes with the camera, and this is a little bit longer shutter speed. It is not a multiple exposure. It's pure ICM.
Wow.
And it's ICM with a little bit of a jerk in it, a little sweep, stop, sweep. And you can get kind of a feel for, you get two different pictures, even though it's all in the same frame, if that makes sense to you.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that I wanted to say is that the thing I love most about your use of ICM, intentional camera movement, is that you could stand here, whatever you're doing, and look at these photos and these images and study them, because there's so much to try to decipher,
Yeah.
Between,
there's mystery. Yeah,
there's mystery, exactly. And that is such a beautiful thing, because whereas a lot of photos, you can look at certain things and pick something out really quick. And then there are others that you have to study for a longer period of time. And then there are these that have everything brought together, everything brought together. The colors are outrageous.
Yeah, I know.
Outrageous in a good way. And here we have a street in San Francisco, another beautiful shot. I tell you, the streets of San Francisco and New York, nothing like them.
Yeah.
Nothing like them.
And this was shooting into the sun, so people are backlit. And probably looks like 3 exposures, and this was definitely done in camera.
Gorgeous. Now, tell us about this. Because Edward says, amazingly powerful, spiritual. The center figure is very Christ-like, and all of those who follow surround. Absolutely, Edward.
That's a great interpretation. I love that. Thank you.
Edward types really fast, and he has the best analysis and outlook on every photo. I tell you, he's amazing. He's amazing.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. I love to hear other people's interpretations, and that one actually is very close to what my own is.
Absolutely. But tell me about this one, because I saw this and I just stopped on it immediately.
Well, it was one of our old streetcars. We have historic streetcars that run down Market Street and down the Embarcadero, and the light was gorgeous on the streetcars. I noticed them as they went by, so I decided to stop and capture some as they went by. And I got this one with the three faces, and I just loved it, especially the middle lady. There's just something 1920s about her, you know, kind of a mysterious, almost kind of a, she reminds me of Helen Mirren in a way, the actress. And it's like there are stories there. Those women have stories. So I always, when I get something like this, and I think I'm going to do a series, but I never quite find that magic again to duplicate it the second time.
Yeah, no, it is. It is magical, because when I look at it, I see the girl with her hands, you know, sort of up a little, wondering what she's thinking. In the middle there, what I saw when I looked at it was, remember when the nuns used to wear the big hats? I forget the exact.
It's Sally Field flying nun hats.
Yes, exactly. I didn't go to a Catholic school, so pardon. I forget what that actual was, you know, what that was called. But anyway, just absolutely beautiful there in the middle. Rose says the photos echo the ways colors can bleed in watercolor paintings. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Beautiful. It's an apt description. That's what ICM does. It paints.
Yeah, it does paint. And you've talked about that a lot on your website.
Yeah.
Yep. By the way, fantastic website you have, because a lot of websites you go to have a certain amount of, you know, not coverage, a certain amount of articles on them or pieces about certain things. Yours, you really have a beautiful way of describing what you do and how people can go about learning this technique.
I want to share it. I don't want to keep it a secret.
Right.
It's one of the things, we all move differently.
Right.
And to teach somebody ICM, they're never going to take the same picture that I take, but conversely, I'm never going to take the picture that they take, because really our photography is the sum of our life experiences,
right?
How we see, what we choose to look at, but also how we move. Mm-hmm. And we all move a little differently. And I have local friends that I shoot with that do ICM, and we'll go out and shoot together. Bill Hewitt's on tonight. He's one that I shoot with often. And he'll go out and he'll get the most amazing ICM stuff. And it's like, how did you do that?
You know, that's right. We all see things differently. We all do things differently. Rose says she'll check out the website. We've been showing it all evening here. By the way, folks, please share this broadcast. We love your likes. We love your hearts. And we absolutely go crazy over your comments. As you know, we show a lot of them and we read them. But please make sure that you share this broadcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, and let your friends know about this, because all these photographers work really hard and they have incredible work and stories, and we're here to share them. And let your friends, family, and network know about them, please. So, Roxanne, when I was going through your work, this was the first photograph I picked out to promote the show with, and you were like, boy, my grandson's going to be thrilled. That's your grandson in that photo.
That's my surfer grandson. It certainly is. Yeah.
Wow. So tell us about this.
Yeah, this was taken. It's a multiple exposure, and it was taken at Montara Beach, which is just south of the city. Mm-hmm. And it truly was orange because this was in the midst of our forest fire season last September.
Oh, okay.
And it was the day after San Francisco made international news because we never saw the sun that day. The smoke was so thick.
Right. That's right.
That the sun never showed. And this was the evening after. So the next day, and it had cleared just enough. And we took him down to Montara, and he went in, and I wanted to get some nice surfing pictures of him, but I didn't. But I got this one, which I thought captured his spirit and the spirit of the day. And the, you know, what surfing brings to the inner soul of somebody who's in communion with the ocean like that. Mm-hmm. It's an amazing pursuit.
Let me tell you something. Now that you say that, I didn't realize it was during the wildfires and everything else that was going on in San Francisco. Yes, that smoke and the sky and everything was really ominous.
Yeah,
And it was really scary. Numerous photographers I know documented all that while that was going on, had some incredible images. But like you said, you went there to get a certain type of picture, but look at, even in that moment, look at what you came back with. It's it's just unbelievable. It's gorgeous.
I had an interesting experience during the fires. I didn't go out on the worst day. I didn't have the freedom that particular day to take my camera and go. I had some other responsibilities then. But I did have to run down to the corner, and I went out in the outer sunset, which is just row houses. And it was dark, and it was about 1 p.m. And all of the windows were lit. And those particular houses you see, their dining rooms and their living rooms. And there was somebody in each window as I walked down the street. They were either on Zoom on their big screen TVs in the living room, or they were typing on computers in the dining room or living room. And as I walked down the street, I thought, this is the pandemic. This is it, that ominous dark sky, the threat, the danger. We can't see these viruses. We can't, can't touch them.
Yeah.
And that day, I walked through an actual visual field of the pandemic. It was an amazing, I'll never forget it. And then the next day I went down and I got this, and it was just the beauty of our planet recovering. Yeah. And I hope we keep it recovering, because it's a glorious place to inhabit.
It really is. We have a lot of work to do in this world and many things. And I'm just hoping that, we will get through this, but it is definitely a long road. We have a long road for a lot of things that are going on. But you know what? Your photography and your beautiful way of describing so much of it, and your stories to go along with it, it's a blessing to have you here tonight.
Oh, thank you.
And, along with that shot, we go to another shot where there's the beautiful sunlight with none of that stuff that was going on in San Francisco with the wildfires. Where was this, Roxanne?
Cambodia, a couple of years ago.
Cambodia.
And it was interesting because she was actually posing for a tour of photographers.
Okay.
And she was out walking across this lake with these water containers. And, of course, they were all lined up. They all had their cameras on their tripods. They were all going to get exactly the same picture.
Of course.
And I thought, how can I interpret her a little bit differently? Because she's magical. I mean, even though she was a model, she was a villager making extra money.
Right.
But she was enjoying what she was doing.
Right.
And I thought, what can I do to really show that she was dancing with the water? Because that's what it looked like. She had this definite relationship like my grandson has with the ocean.
Right.
So I chose ICM and played around with different motions and different movements. And of course, with ICM and human figures, you get a double whammy because they're also moving.
Right.
And so that brings some unpredictability into it. And it's the unpredictability where I think the magic happens.
It is the unpredictability. And that's, that's one of the things that also translates well the same in many ways to the architecture and cityscapes too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when I look at this photo, now I don't know if it's New York or San Francisco, but the immediate thing that comes to my mind is I'm a big, this may be silly, but I'm a big Batman fan, and it reminds me of Gotham.
Okay. It has, it's an interesting photograph in my eye because it has both an ominous feel and a joyous feel at the same time. So it's very contradictory. And I'm sure some people take it more heavily one way or the other. And, that's kind of cool because they're meant to provoke thought in whoever views them, and especially ICM, to come up with your own story of what you think it is.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, I've pulled a lot of photos. I had a great time going through all your work. And then I came across a couple and I was like, wow, this is really fascinating. So tell me about the crow.
I don't want to tell you. It'll take the magic of the photo away.
Okay. You can have some secrets. It's okay. I have to tell you, I saw this, and I have a lot of crows around here, and I absolutely they're fascinating to watch sometimes. And
I'll
this,
tell you what he is. He's
okay.
a gate ornament. He's a metal gate ornament.
Oh my God, you got me so good. That is so funny.
But
That
the
is so funny.
sky was so gorgeous behind him. And
Wow.
yeah, and I was able to do some multiple work with it. And yeah, and I love it. And it was a gate ornament. But that's okay because he's a representation, right?
Listen, you'd show this to 9 out of 10 people. Would anybody guess this was a gate ornament?
Oh, I don't think anybody, if you did 10 out of 10 people, nobody'd know.
Yeah, I don't think so. So Edward says, Edgar Allan Poe, the literary associations are hitting me, the Raven.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely, Edward. Thank you. Thank you. And Edward also said that skyline looks like Dante's Inferno. It's actually true. So like you said, there's joy in that photo, and there's mystery, and there's also, ominous, that ominous feel to it as well. So tell us about some other work that you've worked on too, in terms of landscapes and nature, and then we get to some really, really different stuff that you've done too.
This is the Marin Hills, taken from the city across to Marin. And I did a very slight ICM, and then I turned the camera upside down and positioned it and did another one, and it left a little brightness of sky in the center.
Absolutely. I love this technique, man. Oh my God. I can't wait till I start using, I have a Samsung NX1 professional camera with an incredible 18 to 52.8 lens. And I can hardly wait to start like doing some of this technique.
Well, don't be afraid to turn your cameras upside down.
I'm going to be trying a lot of things. I'm going to everybody needs something to play with this pandemic. So let me tell you, we're all going stir crazy. So the number one thing I'm looking forward to is discovering new ways of doing things. So I love it. I love it. So, but just guide us through a few of these as I go through them.
This one is just purely a composite.
Okay.
I just took a series of pictures at the beach, and I got home and I got Photoshop out, and I had a vision in my head on what I wanted, and I just put it together, and it's purely a composite.
Okay.
Just my imagination.
Absolutely gorgeous, though. What an imagination it is. And subway tunnels and other things are something I love to always keep my eyes out for and photograph, and even escalators and stuff. So tell us about this.
This is the escalator from the lobby up to the second floor of the Broad Museum in Los Angeles. And if you look up at the top beyond the figure, you can kind of see the giveaway of the broad shapes that are morphed a bit with the motion.
Absolutely.
And it was an ICM twist.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do ICM pushing forward. Sometimes I'll do it, and that'll give me the double exposure look.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating to work with that sensor and see what it collects and what it deletes along the way, depending on how it's open.
Yeah. You know what's gorgeous I love about this is I love the way the orange just flows straight up. Then you have the escalator stairs, which are almost like a beautiful blue. But the key is, as you said at the top, is that beautiful architecture and design, of the Broad Museum outside, So just gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I have to tell you, the colors just, I'll sit back with a cup of coffee and tea and look at all your work again, because I'm in awe of all the beautiful colors. This
is at Chase Museum. I'm not Chase Museum, Chase Stadium, where the Warriors play basketball.
Okay.
It is very colorful there, but not this colorful. What amazes me about this, it was a fairly long exposure. So it allows the color to collect. And then I just ramped up saturation, and much to my amazement, these colors popped.
Mm.
And then I used one Nick filter over the top of it to kind of polish it off, and it deepened the colors just a little bit more, and I liked it. So
Okay. Okay. Now the Warriors moved to a new stadium, if I'm correct, right?
I'm sorry?
The Warriors, they moved to a new stadium.
Yeah, this is their new stadium. Yeah.
Right, right. So this is the new one. Yep, yep.
And
Wow.
it's got some wonderful architecture to go play with, and it's got some beautiful big metal spheres out in a courtyard that are mirrored on one side that are kind of infinity mirrors. And it's, again, another Candyland. You could spend a day there.
Right, right. No, wow. I haven't been to that stadium. I've only been to the Forum to see the Lakers.
Okay.
So I'm sorry. Listen to me. The Staples Center.
Center, yeah.
Boy, I'm really dating myself that I said the Forum, right? Anyway, but moving on here, there's also this beautiful poetic feel to a lot of these ICM pictures, with the ones that have especially one individual, one person in them, like this one. You could almost look at this photo and expect a poem to be read, you know?
Yeah, this is New York. And I did a lot. I was out every evening when I was there doing night shooting. And she just had this beautiful kind of flowy gown on, and her hair. And I love the geometry of it. It's complex in its own way when you look at the floor and the lighting and what's going on. But it speaks simplicity when you look at it in the whole.
I love her stance. You caught her in mid movement there. Obviously, her left leg behind her, and her dress that she has on is sort of being possibly blown a little by the wind, and her other leg is showing. It's just beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. So, and I'm a sucker for all these lines and bars and windows. I mean, I just love when people play with all that.
Yeah, this one's just it's a multiple exposure, but it's also got a lot of reflection in the window that I was shooting through. So it just joins all kinds of it's altered reality is what it is, and
exactly.
The people kind of fade with what the light is doing and what the tonal qualities are. And I was really pleased with how it turned out.
No, it's beautiful. It really is. And I have to tell you, one of my favorite things in life to do, everybody who watches this show who knows me and other people knows that I preach the gospel of just looking up. And I tell everybody, always look up wherever you go, especially with buildings, because the tighter you get on them, wow, the angles and the beautiful shots that you can get by experimenting with different things. And you do absolutely gorgeous work with that.
Thank you. Now, this is a great building, and I always look up, but I always look behind me. And this building sparked some real interest in me and its possibilities, looking at what the building sees rather than me looking at the building. And so I backed myself into one of those alcoves to see, what does this building see when it looks out?
No, it's but this building though, which one is it? Do you know? Because the colors.
I can't remember the name of it. It's on Market. I mean, the next time you're in San Francisco, just let me know, and we'll go back you into a corner and show you.
Yes. You can back me right up into that corner with this building, because let me tell you something. I'd be here for an hour experimenting with it. So Edward says, I wonder what science fiction movies and literature have influenced you, Roxanne. All of these other visions and worlds you bring to us. You know what? I agree with Edward 110%. Absolutely. Roxanne, Ruth Spicer is here. Ruth, thank you so much. I love the point of view on this one. Ruth is a great photographer, and she's also a wonderful fan of the show. Thank you, Ruth, for being here. Let's move on to a few of these. Oh man, this, I love it. I love it. This is my technique right here. I love it.
But this is what that building sees.
Right. That's right.
You back into one of those little alcoves back there, and you look up at the building to see what the building's looking at, and this is exactly what you see. And the first time I did it, I was just starstruck. It was like, oh my gosh, look at this.
As I would say, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, it does, for sure.
And that's exactly what the art of Just Look Up can do, because the tighter you get and the more you look at things, the more you find. And
Yep.
that is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
You know, and then you can come in tight on certain things.
Mhm.
And when I saw this, I was like, wow, that is absolutely magnificent. The clouds reflecting with those beautiful lines. I love, you know, sometimes you have to come in really tight on some things. I'm usually one that goes for the overall perspective,
Mhm.
but I have to, because I'm a wide angle type of guy, but I love the close ups on some of these.
Yeah. Well, the details are just they're just beautiful, and
Mhm.
you know, architects put so much time and effort into every little tiny nuance of what they design, and
Mhm.
sometimes we just see the overall picture, and I like to really go in and see what makes the overall picture what it is. You
Right.
know, what are all of these elements?
Right. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. There is a building in New York just like this on the west side now. I forget the name of it, but it has angles just like this, and I love getting under it. And actually, there's another one now, a platform in New York for what's called the Edge, which is now at the New Hudson Yards.
Uh-huh.
And I have to get up there one day to photograph some of it, but this is absolutely stunning.
Thank
And
you.
and then I get to the next one, and we're going to see the other part of it, which is right here, right?
Yes. And what that is the Neiman Marcus department store.
Ah,
And they wanted to build where an old historic building had been.
mhm.
And they were given permission to build, providing they didn't destroy the old stained glass ceiling.
Mhm.
And so they had to design the building around that stained glass ceiling in order to get the permission to build. And it's a gorgeous store, and there's just all kinds of wonderful different pictures to take of it, different perspectives to look at.
I absolutely love the reflection of that other building in it, because it's an older building, and the sunburst on it, along with the dome inside and everything. Everything just plays so beautifully together.
Yeah,
Beautifully. I
thank
have
you.
to tell you, Roxanne, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show tonight and to go through all of this work. I want to make sure that everybody checks out your website and your Instagram handle. Her Instagram handle is Roxanne_Overton_photography and RoxanneOverton.com. Please check it out. Make sure you share this broadcast, as we said earlier, for those coming in later. Let everybody on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook know about it. And please, because these photographers deserve to have their work shared and to be known about. I have to tell you, Edward's closing comment is absolutely perfect. A symphony of photographic elements. And that is exactly what this show has been tonight.
Thank you so much, Edward. You've been just inspirational to me to try and live up to what you see.
Well, I have to tell you, we are always thrilled to have Edward as a guest, a former guest, as a fan, and as just a wonderful friend of this show. He lends so much to it every week. We're thankful for him. But before we go, I'm going to bring on another big fan of architecture. And, well, Jonathan, introduce yourself as how you would describe yourself to everyone. You're muted, Jonathan.
What Stefan was referring to is that I did my graduate work in architectural design and history. I absolutely love this photograph with the mix of old and new, both inside the building as well as reflected on the surface. As for myself, I am a full-time flaneur, a part-time tech, and a sometime writer. And I'm going to ask a very strange question.
Mm-hmm.
Pulling off of something that you and I had discussed earlier, because we both have hearing aids and a long history of certainly a diminished hearing, if not actual deafness. How has that affected you as a visual artist?
I don't know that it really affects me because my hearing loss is from childhood, and so it's been my normal. So the only thing as an artist, I'm not sure it's affected me at all, because I really have never known anything else. So I don't think I can answer that question. I can tune things out easily, but I suspect I could tune things out easily anyway. So I don't think it's affected me because it's just been with me, as long as I can remember. I don't remember being able to hear normally.
I can understand that. My own deafness started when I was a child.
Yeah. Well, and do you feel that it's affected your work?
I find that it has, in a more general sense. My deafness journey, for lack of a better term, was very, very slow at the beginning. So I didn't actually need hearing aids for the past couple of years, but it's forced me actually to be more to compensate for what I'm not hearing.
And
maybe
that's a valid point, and maybe I do look a lot deeper because there's a lot that I don't hear. It's quite possible, but my vision also happens to be I'm like 2015 and 2013. So my vision is really acutely sharp. And I see things in layers. So I love reflections because I can see the layers. I can figure out how many different, layers and reflections I'm seeing very quickly. So I'm not sure how it all ties together.
Okay. Well, I have to tell you, it's been, like I said, an incredible discussion to have you on. Your journey has been quite a wonderful thing to listen to. And thank you so much for being here. Jonathan, by the way, is our wonderful co-producer. Without Jonathan driving the car behind the scenes with all the comments and banners and tickers and helping with the narrative at the beginning, I wouldn't be able to do what I do best, was put together all the visuals. And I have to tell you, once again, it was a joy putting together your work tonight.
Well, it was a joy for me to be here, and I really appreciate everybody's comments and compliments. It's gratifying. I love what I do, and I love sharing it, and I love teaching it. And hopefully I've given a little bit of insight that will inspire some people to go try something a little bit different and discover a little magical world they maybe didn't know was there.
Well, you've already done that with somebody as far away as New Zealand, because Jude from New Zealand said, "So glad I discovered Roxanne's work. Thank you for sharing her images."
Thank you.
So you know what I say? Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. Okay.
Roxanne,
thank you so much, Steph. It was a joy meeting you, Jonathan. I really appreciate everything that you guys do to further the art of photography. It's definitely a passion.
Absolutely. Stay behind the scenes for 1 minute. I have to wrap up, but then I want to talk to you for a minute, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to take this off. I'm going to say, folks, this has been another Spin It Social Hour. Thank you so much for being here. Wow, it was so much fun and so beautiful going through Roxanne's work. Thank you, Ty, for letting me know about her. I am definitely looking forward to bringing more photographers on. I've been on a run of women photographers right now because I am making it a mission of mine to bring more and more women photographers on the show, and photographers from everywhere, from all different backgrounds. So I just want to run through a couple of things. Please know that my next guest is going to be an incredible show. The next guest I'm bringing on in 2 weeks on April 29th at 6 p.m. midnight in Croatia is Olga Karlovac. Olga is an incredible photographer who has a brand new book out. I'm going to bring her on. And it's going to be an incredible time learning about her journey and her work. So please tune in on Thursday, April 29th, as Olga stays up really late to come to us all the way from Croatia. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to tell you quickly is that there's a great workshop going on online an expo called canamexpo.com. Rick Friedman, one of my buddies and a former guest on the show and a phenomenal photographer, is doing some workshops there. But any of the workshops there are only $99. You just can't beat that, as it says. Photography education with 13 instructors, over 30 hours of classes. Please check out the Can-Am Expo and Rick and many other photographers listed there. You will learn a lot. It's going to be great. We all need something to do during this pandemic. And then finally, a couple of other things. One of my other sponsors on this show is a wonderful gentleman named Emilio Pardo, who's a visionary brand strategist, and we work on a show together called Real Talk Live from the Barn. And our guest on Wednesday, April 28th, is going to be Christine Whalen, Dr. Christine Whalen from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And she is the authority on purpose and happiness. And it's going to be on finding happiness, the myth and reality, how to achieve it and make it last. It is going to be a great show. We all need to know more about happiness and purpose. So please tune in and listen to Dr. Whelan talk about that. It's going to be an absolute great show. And Sri's Sunday NYT Read Along this Sunday and every Sunday. Join in with Sri and this week guest host Neil Parek, who is actually also the producer of Sri's Read Along, with Robert Strauss, who is their guest this week, author of The Final Founder, a somewhat unconventional biography of U.S. Supreme Court Justice John Marshall, and author of Worst President Ever. No, not that one. Oh, man. Okay, I'm tuning in for that one, just for that line right there. Okay, we're not going to get into that, though. And finally, folks, thank you for being here. I really have a passion for doing this show every 2 weeks now. And I thank the heavens every time I do it for bringing these photographers on. Please look me up and follow me and find me and connect with me if there is work to be done in social media and visual strategy, live stream production, social media coaching. And I do a ton of guest speaking and workshops these days all over the world, teaching about visuals and social media. So please connect with me. Thank you very much. I tell you, folks, what a joy. Anyway, see you in 2 weeks. Stefan Kaplan here for the Spin It Social Hour. Please, number one, take care of yourselves and be well, and take care of your families and friends. Thank you very much. Good luck with everything, folks. See you then. Good night.